Hi everyone, Johnny Kwok here, back with my second video. So after I posted the first video about interview tips and career advice on product management, what I got was a ton of questions and a ton of comments on Reddit, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. And all those questions, the mass majority of them were about one thing. And that was, how do I get a job in product management if I don't have prior experience? So I thought I'd make one video just talking about that. So I'm going to give you 3 really useful tips that you can use in your resume, that you can use during your interview, that should help increase the chance of you actually getting that position you're looking for. So let's get started. So I got some feedback that with my videos, it would help a lot if I actually had some visual cues that could help kind of demonstrate and conceptualize the ideas that I'm talking about. So I'm going to use a really simple PowerPoint presentation I put together to explain this. So the first tip I have for you to help you get that job as an entry-level product manager is you want to demonstrate the ability to think upwards and downwards. So what does this mean? So most of the time, when you talk to any individual who's excited about product management or technology for that matter, and this could be an interview or on a resume, there's typically a lot of emphasis on features. You know, I built this feature that does this. I think a feature like this would be super cool. And that's fine. And now taking this further, that's what most product managers will talk about during an interview or on the resume or whatever. And then, however, taking it to the next step, you'll have some product managers that are stronger that will talk about the features and the actual impact and results those brought. Now, if you're talking about features which you've never built because you're entering into product management, you might not be able to do this. But when you're having a conversation about a feature, you want to always tie it to an impact on the result that feature brings. That will show that you're not only a person who's interested in one idea within a bigger chain, but you're really interested that the feature itself can bring some kind of result to the company. Now, taking this to the next level, well, why would you build the feature in the first place? Well, the feature itself you're building because you're trying to improve some overall product performance or product vision or whatever. So just understanding how that feature interacts with the entire product is kind of the second level you're looking to get to. Now, continuing that train of thought, how does the product itself affect other products that are owned by the product management team in an organization, right? So understanding that in the company, there are usually more than one product, and when you make a change or add a feature to one product, how that impacts and changes the behavior of the other products within the company. Now, when your product department is performing and making changes, well, how does that affect the overall strategy of your entire department, right? So are you trying to, as a product department, build features that put you into one position or another one? Or are you trying to change your perception? Or are you trying to change, the way a user's behaving? But I think the part where most people get lost is they don't usually get even to this part where they're really thinking about the downward and the upward impact of the changes. And, just taking this further, if you're a product manager and you're looking to get into a more senior position, like a director of product or some kind of managerial position, well, you have to be able to communicate your ability to make decisions on features and how that impacts your product, your department, your strategy, and your organization. And kind of in a strange coincidence, the deeper you can think about these supply chains, the more senior you're able to communicate how senior your experience is. Because at the highest level, you're able to see the entire vision of the company, how that sets up an organization, how that builds a strategy, how that forms the departments, how that creates the products, and then what kind of features actually should be in that product. And when you have impact and result from your features, you want to see how closely that lines up to your initial vision. So this is a lot to take in, but the key here is do not focus just on the features on your resume and in your conversation. Understand, the more you're able to talk about the impact and result of a feature, and the more you can talk about the impact of the feature on the product, the department, the strategy, the organization, and the overall vision of the company, that will help kind of place you and frame you in a position where you yourself are not just executing things for the sake of executing. You're actually executing with the mental model of what you're changing in the world and within your organization. This will paint you as a person who is much more, wise in the way they make decisions, which is one of the key aspects of all strong product managers. They understand the overall impact of their decisions, even at a feature level. And this will help you really, really kind of evolve the way you think about features and decisions and all this kind of stuff. So always, anytime you find yourself too focused on features, start thinking, how does this feature impact the product, the department, the strategy, the organization, and the vision, and how it gets you there closer. Tip number 2, you want to demonstrate your impact, not your experience. Most resumes and most people during interview talk about the things they've done, but rarely do they focus on the actual business impact they've had. I went ahead and Googled product management resume, and this was the first resume that popped up, and this is the first bullet point on that resume. Now for me, this is absolutely trash. The reason why this statement is so bad is because all it tells me are the actions and the kind of experience that this person and the project this person worked on. But it does not tell me what the hell any of this actually did and how this actually affected the business. Now, all hiring managers and all people reading a resume, even though they cannot consciously tell you, they're looking for someone to make a change to their business. They're looking for someone to solve a very specific problem. So of course, people are asking other people to list their experience, but what they really want is they want to know what kind of change, what kind of impact you're going to bring to their business. So imagine you're the manager of a big product team and you're looking over a ton of resumes and you're interviewing a ton of people. What you're looking for is you're trying to find the people that are going to come into your organization and immediately grow the metrics you care about. So if you come off as a person in your resume and in the interview where you're completely focused on results and impact, well, you're going to immediately kind of connect to the problem that the hiring manager is facing. So for me, I rewrote this resume to really quantify the things I've done. So you've developed 3 mobile apps providing bank customers with the ability to complete fast, secure transactions, over 1 million transactions processed with less than 1% error rate, added 5% to bottom line, equating to 7 million in revenue. Now, I made these numbers up, but anything you do in your professional life, you can find a way to quantify and calculate how much impact you did. If you can't, sorry to say, but that means your job is not that critical and you're not thinking deep enough about your day-to-day tasks. So any job, from janitor to CEO, you can form statements just like this. If you check in the description, I posted an article I wrote about 7 years ago about how to write your resume. I take the example of my comic book store clerk's resume and how you can change that to be a more quantifiable, more impact-focused kind of resume. Feel free to check that out. It's a great example. But here, if you're going to leave with one single thing, this is by far one of the most common mistakes, is you want to add numbers to your resume so it helps anchor the person who's reading and the person who's interviewing you to understand the scale of impact that you brought to the previous organization. This is by far the most common mistake that everybody makes, regardless of the position they're interviewing for. Doesn't matter what job you're interviewing for. If you can quantify it in your resume, you're going to come off as a much stronger candidate. Always quantify your statements. Tip number 3, speak and scale. So it's very common for companies to kind of ask this question, which is, please take a look at our product and tell us what you would change about it. And the most common answer I get is something along this statement. I would redesign the homepage because it's outdated and a bad user experience. You should also add a feature that lets your users share. Sharing on social media is powerful because it could go viral. Now, it is very obvious that most people who are interviewing for positions, when they're asked this question, they give you lots of answers like this. Or they might suggest things like, well, you should have social login. Oh, you should have a mobile app that has animations beginning, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm not saying any of these suggestions are necessarily bad, But the problem is when you come with suggestions for ideas and changes you would make to the product, and you don't talk about the scale of the impact those changes would have, you just come off as a person who has a bunch of ideas, but have no experience actually executing on it. So when I say speak and scale, the key is you want to quantify your statements. Very similar to tip number 2, right? So one example of this, same guy, same question. Your company is focused on mobile users. Mobile first users make up about 80% of your audience. However, your UI is currently optimized for a widescreen desktops. Since most of the main call to actions would fall under the fold, 50% of users might not even see or might not even know there is an action to take. Now this statement was only about, it's only focused on the actual homepage. But the key here is I'm explaining to you that I understand the impact of the changes I'm suggesting, because even though I don't know all the metrics of your company, I understand that when I'm suggesting a change, I'm thinking about the outcome that change will have. And it's not really hard to do this. It's just most people do not think of their actions, their work, and all the kind of decisions they make and what kind of scale that has. And the most common problem with people within one organization is they're always focused on things that have no scale. The perfect example of this is actually bugs. Everybody sees bugs and they freak out. But the majority of bugs that actually are created in a company affect very low percentage of users. But if everybody understood the scale of the problem or the scale of the idea in the first place, companies would run much better. So if you come as an interviewer who's already thinking about the scale of changes and the kind of scale of the impact they would make, you're already communicating the fact that you're very mature in your decision making, that you're thinking ahead, that you think deep. So this is super critical, and it's very common to get tied to the UI of a product or all the cool features that another company does that this one doesn't. Don't do that. Always start by thinking and speaking about scale. Quantify the things you want to work on, quantify the change the things you want to do will have, and you will definitely come off as a very logical, strong, critical thinking individual. And this is one of the most important skill sets for any position in a company, especially product management.
There's your 3 tips. So look, hopefully with those 3 tips, it's going to give you a bit more confidence, a bit more context, another way to think about how you answer questions, how you write resumes, and all that kind of stuff. As always, please give me your feedback in the comments, send me a message on LinkedIn or Reddit or whatever. I'd love to do more of these, and honestly, this stuff is only fun if it's useful for you. So if there's anything else you want me to go deeper in or more detailed, let me know. Besides that, have a good week. See you next time.